What is going on, chat man? Today we are back, and today we are reacting to every NBA player who had rules made to stop them. This is highly anticipated, highly recommended. As you guys know, we've been reacting to old NBA, and I've been learning so much thanks to you guys, man. You guys been putting me onto amazing content, man. Keep recommending me actually amazing videos. But with that being said, let's get straight into the video. If you guys are new to my channel, you like old NBA content, man, hit the subscribe button, man. Join the crew. But with that being said, let's get it. Sir.
The league had never seen anything like him, and they had no idea how to handle it, so they changed the rule. His insane athleticism and size let him swat shots that were still hovering above the rim.
The way, listen. The video just started, but the way that people genuinely talk about, Wilt Chamberlain, I'm thinking this guy is like Wembanyama, but way better, genuinely, because I've never seen some generational talent like Wembanyama. Have you guys been seeing him recently? Let me know down below. But Wilt Chamberlain, he scored 100 points in an NBA game. I don't know if I can believe that, but at the same time, I don't know. Like, I don't know actually. But you guys let me know what you guys think about it.
He could tip them in, redirect, or just grab them right out of the air. So the NBA made the offensive goaltending rule a lot stricter. They didn't want players touching the ball while it was still inside that invisible cylinder above the rim. That change had Wilt's name all over it. Then came the lane. Back then it was only 6 feet wide. Wilt parked himself near the hoop and bullied everybody. The league had to push him back, so they doubled the lane to 12 feet. That was a direct counter to Wilt camping under the rim.
So they had a bunch of rules changed just because of Wilt himself, because he found a way to cheat the game. So does that make him scoring a lot of points kind of fake? Let me know what you guys think.
Change forced him to play farther out and made defenders' jobs a little less miserable, but that still wasn't enough. Wilt's free throw routine was wild. He'd leap from behind the line and try to launch it in midair. It was legal at the time, so they fixed that too. They made a rule that you couldn't cross the line until the ball hit the rim or backboard. He had to stay behind it, like everybody else. Even after all that, Wilt was still breaking records left and right. He led the league in assists one year and even helped his teams win titles. The league...
Assist? Hold on. Wait a minute. This guy, Wilt Chamberlain, had the league on assists. That's actually crazy to me, genuinely. I'm going to be honest. I didn't expect that out of him.
Threw every rule they could at him, and he still dominated. Zaza Pachulia. His name's now tied to one of the most important rule changes in recent NBA history. Back in May of 2017, during Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, he closed out on Kawhi Leonard just a little too hard. Kawhi landed on Zaza's foot and...
Chat, I feel like this guy genuinely did this on purpose, because during the half, Kawhi Leonard was going crazy, if I'm not mistaken. Let me know down below. He was going so crazy for him to slide his foot under your, like, I think that's like one of the worst basketball injuries you can get. And I feel like whoever does that to someone is just weird. I'm gonna be honest.
Rolled his already injured ankle. He didn't return for the rest of the game or the series. And just like that, the Spurs lost their best player and were swept. That one moment sent shockwaves across the league. A few months later, the NBA added new rules to crack down on reckless closeouts. This became known as the Zaza rule. Starting in the 2017 to 2018 season, referees could now call a flagrant or technical foul if they thought a closeout was dangerous. It didn't matter if the defender meant to hurt someone or not. If the shooter's landing space was invaded, the officials had power to step in. Video replay became a tool for them to judge closeouts more fairly. The goal was simple: keep shooters safe, and it's still being enforced today. In March of 2025, Jason Tatum twisted his ankle on a closeout, and the defender was hit with a flagrant. That doesn't happen without the Zaza rule. It changed how defenders approach shooters and gave officials a clearer path to protect players from those risky, under-the-radar moves. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyway.
That injury looked horrible, chat. That twisted ankle by Jason Tatum.
Anyways, Shaq. His presence alone shifted how teams played and how the league wrote the rulebook. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, teams couldn't stop him inside, so they stopped the game instead. That's where Hack-a-Shaq was born. Teams fouled him on purpose, even when he didn't have the ball. Why? Because he struggled at the free throw line. His career average...
Oh my god. So they purposely fouled Shaq to put him at the free throw line? That's like a cheat code. I think that's the only flaw of his game, shooting. But didn't Shaq like break NBA basketball court? Like, he broke the rim and everything, right?
average was just above 52%, and some years it dipped even lower. The tactics slowed everything down. Fans hated it, games dragged, and the league knew something had to give, so they changed the rules. In the 2008 to 2009 season, the NBA added a rule just for situations like this. If a team committed a foul away from the ball in the last 2 minutes, the other team got one free throw and the ball back. That rule made it way riskier to foul guys like Shaq late in the game. It didn't matter if it was intentional or not. If you grabbed someone just to avoid a bucket, you paid for it. That rule's still in place today and changed how teams approach the final stretch of games. Even though it came after Shaq's prime, there's no doubt his career forced the league to rethink how late-game fouls should work. Allen Iverson, his influence went far beyond the court, and it forced the NBA to make changes in how the game was enforced and how players were expected to show up. His crossover was legendary, fast, sharp, and full of hesitation. But that hesitation brought controversy. Iverson would sometimes slide his hand under the ball, just enough to blur the line between a legal dribble and a carry. There wasn't a new rule, but refs started cracking down. His style pushed the league to enforce carrying violations a lot more strictly. He changed how players were called.
Yeah, like, so Allen Iverson's the reason to why, like, a lot of players carry the ball way more now, because a lot of those step backs aren't actually step backs, chat. So
for hesitation moves, even if he didn't break the rules outright. But Iverson's impact didn't stop there. In 2005, the NBA introduced a league-wide dress code. Players were required to wear business or conservative clothing when arriving at games, sitting on the bench injured, or doing any official team activity. No more jerseys, hats, chains, baggy jeans, or Timberland boots. That decision was directly tied to Iverson's fashion. He wore what he wanted.
What? So they changed it because Allen Iverson was just like a drippy guy. Like, he just liked to dress nice in his own style. They changed the whole NBA. What? I never knew any of this, chat. This is crazy.
Baggy clothes and visible tattoos. The league saw that as bad optics. Iverson pushed back hard, calling it unfair and saying it targeted guys like him. The move sparked years of cultural debate. Of course, things have gone back to normal since then, allowing players to express themselves. George Mikan, he was the league's first true force in the paint, and his dominance led to some of the earliest major rule changes in basketball. In the early 50s, the lane was only 6 feet wide. That let Mike in. At 6'10" and over 240 pounds, camp under the rim with no resistance. He bullied defenders, cleaned the glass, and scored at will. So the league made a change.
He just stood there?
The 1951 to 52 season, they doubled the lane to 12 feet wide. That rule, known as the Mike-in rule, pushed him farther from the hoop and made defenders' jobs just a bit more manageable. This was basically Wilt before Wilt, but they weren't done. Wow. They also introduced the offensive 3-second rule that same season. Before that, bigs like Mike-in could just stand under the rim forever. Now, offensive players had to move in and out of the paint or get hit with the turnover. It was a direct response to Mike-in's ability to dominate positioning and scoring.
So if you stay in the paint for too long, that's why there's 5 seconds. That makes sense.
Without leaving the low block. These two rules came together to force more motion and balance the game. Even with the changes, Mike-in stayed effective. He still led the league in scoring and rebounding, but the rules stuck, and they're still part of the game today. Mike-in's influence lives on in every 3-second call, in every lane violation. Charles Barkley.
Wow.
His back-to-the-basket game was so dominant and deliberate, it forced the league to step in. During the 90s, Barkley would use his strength to back defenders down endlessly, sometimes for 15 seconds straight, just bullying his way to the rim. It was effective, but it slowed everything down. So in 1990,
there's no way Charles Barkley used to just push his defender in the paint the whole time, 15 seconds. What? I can't even imagine that. What?
The NBA introduced a rule to fix it. Now, if a player's dribbling with their back or side to the basket below the free throw line extended, they've only got 5 seconds to make a move. If they don't, it's a turnover. The count ends if they pick up their dribble, cross above the free throw line extended, or lose the ball. This wasn't just about speeding up the game, it was about keeping the flow alive. Barkley's post-ups, as iconic as they were, had turned into stalling tactics. The rule made players be more decisive with their moves and pushed the league toward quicker, more dynamic offense. Even though Barkley wasn't doing anything illegal at the time, his style shaped how the league redefined legal. That rule still exists today. It's a small timer in the background, but it makes sure no one turns post play into a drawn-out wrestling match.
Okay.
Barkley made the NBA better, even if it meant changing how he played. Ted Stepien, this time not a player, but an owner. His name's now tied to one of the most important safeguards in NBA history. When he took over the Cavaliers in 1980, he made a mess of everything. The team went 66 and 180 during his time. But what really did damage were the trades. Stepien gave away first-round picks in 5 straight years, 1982 through 86. He got back average players, while other teams landed stars like James Worthy, Sam Perkins, and Detlef Schrempf. The league was so alarmed that they stepped in and froze Cleveland's ability to make trades. After he sold the team, the NBA handed out extra picks just to undo the damage. Then came the rule. In the 1984-85 season, the NBA introduced the Ted Stepien rule. It said no team can trade away its first-round pick in back-to-back future drafts unless it gets another first-rounder in return. That way, no team...
Why would he trade his first-round pick, though? That doesn't make sense. Why would he trade it? Like, you have a good player coming. Why would you do that?
...can go 2 straight future drafts without one. The goal was to protect franchises from self-destruction. The rule's still in effect today, and it plays a role in how teams structure blockbuster trades. Pick swaps, protections, all of it goes through this filter. Stepien's legacy might be chaos, but the rule that bears his name helps keep the entire league in check. Kareem. This one was a college basketball rule. Back then, he was still Lou Alcindor, and nobody could stop him. At 7'2", he dunked everything. He dominated college basketball so thoroughly at UCLA that the NCAA actually banned dunking altogether in 1967. That ban stayed in place for nearly a decade. It didn't just come out of nowhere. Alcindor's ability to overpower defenders with easy dunks made the game look unfair, so the NCAA stepped in, and that rule became known as the Alcindor rule. It forced him to find a new way to score, and that's when he turned to the skyhook. That shot...
Wait, so they banned him from basically dunking? How does that make sense, though? Can you guys let me know? Like, I'm very confused on why Kareem had to, like, change something, because it is.
Launched high above defenders with one hand became his trademark. And it wasn't just effective, it was nearly unstoppable. The ban took away his dunks, but it gave basketball one of its most iconic moves. But that rule didn't sit right with everyone. The ban came right after Texas Western's all-black, starting 5-beat all-white Kentucky in the 1966 title game. And suddenly, the NCAA decided high-flying, powerful play was a problem. Many saw that as racially motivated. Kareem did too. He believed the rule was aimed at limiting the playing style of dominant black athletes. It wasn't just about gameplay, it was about control. The ban finally ended in 1976, just as dunking exploded in the NBA and the ABA merged. But the damage was already done. Kareem had changed the game without ever needing to throw it down. The skyhook became legendary, and the NCAA rulebook had to live with the fact that it tried to restrict greatness, but only made it evolve. That's Kareem's legacy, not just dominance, but adaptation. The NCAA...
That is actually insane. He changed his game, and it changed the whole trajectory of basketball in NBA history. What?
Tried to stop the dunk.
What?
Instead, it helped create a move that defined a legend. James Harden. His ability to turn fouls into a scoring weapon changed how the NBA called the game. For years, Harden leaned into defenders, hooked their arms, and extended his legs after stepbacks, all just to bait refs into blowing the whistle. He led the league in free throw attempts for 7 straight seasons, even hitting nearly 12 attempts per game in 2018-19. But fans got frustrated, coaches got fed up, and the league had seen enough. Before the 2021-22 season, the NBA made a change. They didn't rewrite the rulebook. They redefined how refs enforced it. Referees were told not to reward non-basketball moves. No more fouls for jumping into defenders, hooking arms, or flailing legs. These tactics were called out directly in training videos, and Harden's own highlights were used to teach refs what not to call. The impact was instant. Harden's free throw attempts dropped by over 28% that season. The entire league saw fewer whistles and quicker games. Harden adjusted, relying more on passing and scoring versatility. But his days of living at the line were over. The move didn't just clean up the stat sheet. It changed how offensive players are allowed to create contact. Harden's foul drawing mastery triggered a whole new standard. Darryl Dawkins, the man dunked so hard, he literally changed the structure of the game. In November of 1979, Dawkins shattered a backboard with a thunderous dunk against the Kansas City Kings. Glass exploded across the court, and the league suddenly had a safety nightmare. Just a few...
He slammed the ball that bad in the hoop, it broke that bad?
Weeks later, he did it again, this time against the Spurs. 2 backboards destroyed. That wasn't just chaos, it was a wake-up call. The NBA couldn't afford to have games stopped because someone dunked too hard, so they made changes. First, they started fining and suspending players for breaking backboards. That didn't stop the power dunks, but it sent a message. Then came the big fix. Breakaway rims. These rims were built to bend under pressure, absorbing the force of high-impact dunks. And
You're gonna get fined for dunking so hard? That's part of basketball, though. I think it's the equipment that they needed to fix, but they did, so that's good.
snapping back into place without cracking the glass. And the glass itself got an upgrade too. The league switched to half-inch tempered glass, which was way more durable, and if broken, wouldn't send dangerous shards flying. Dawkins didn't just break equipment, he broke tradition. The league's response became the standard across all levels of basketball. Every rim that bends, every backboard that holds up during a dunk owes a little something to Chocolate Thunder. His dunks rewrote the rulebook, not in words, but in hardware. Michael Jordan, his name didn't just change basketball, it reshaped the rulebook. During the 1980s and 90s, Jordan dominated with unmatched scoring, ridiculous footwork, and killer isolation plays. At 6'6", he exploded past defenders or rose right over them. Teams like the Pistons built entire defensive systems around stopping him, but the Bulls had an answer. They cleared out one side of the floor and let Jordan go to work. These clear-out isolations became so common and so effective that the NBA stepped in. In the 1994-95 season, the league introduced a rule to crack down on illegal offense, targeting teams that overloaded one side of the floor just to give one player isolation space.
What?
That meant no more 4 players standing still, while Jordan cooked someone one-on-one. If it happened, refs could call a violation and turn the ball.
What? I never knew that was a rule. Jordan used to ISO his defender while his teammates were on the other side of the rim. Like, that's crazy. And for him to actually go off, why is that even a rule? I never thought about that. I should do that.
This forced teams, even the Bulls, to move toward more ball movement and actual offensive action. The triangle offense became even more valuable under this rule, and Jordan still thrived in it, averaging almost 30 points a game during that era. But the league wasn't done. Another rule shift began to take shape around the same time, focused on how players like Jordan were defended. Back then, defenders could put their hands on offensive players, on their hip, on their waist, and steer them. Jordan faced that physicality constantly, especially from the Knicks and Pistons. Despite it, he scored in every way imaginable, including 69 points against Cleveland in 1990.
Wow.
The NBA started to crack down on that too. Jordan didn't need the help, he was already unstoppable. But the changes made scoring cleaner and games faster. League-wide points per game jumped, assists rose, and isolation-heavy play started giving way to team movement and spacing. These rules directly shaped the league we see today. Larry Bird, his impact wasn't just felt on the court, it reshaped how teams handle their money. In 1983, the NBA introduced a salary cap to create parity and control spending, but that cap came with exceptions, and one of the most important became known as the Larry Bird exception. It allowed teams to exceed the cap to re-sign their own players, helping keep stars with their franchises and avoid roster overhauls. The rule required a player to spend 3 consecutive seasons with the same team without being waived or switching teams in free agency. Once that condition was met, a team could offer a contract beyond the salary cap, up to the maximum salary allowed. Bird was the first. The Celtics re-signed him using this new rule, and his name stuck to it forever. The NBA later expanded this into 3 levels: full bird rights, early bird rights, and non-bird rights. Full bird rights are the most powerful, letting teams go over the cap and offer 5-year deals at max salary. Early bird rights kick in after 2 years and let teams pay up to 175% of the player's previous deal or the league average. Non-bird rights apply to those with less than 2 years and allow smaller increases. Bird rights changed everything. Teams didn't have to choose between cap space and loyalty. It gave franchises the flexibility to keep core players while still pursuing free agents. During the 1998 lockout, this very rule was at the center of tense negotiations as owners looked to curb rising salary. Bird's legacy isn't just in his shooting, passing, or championships. It's in the blueprint teams still used to.
That is crazy how all of this is just in NBA history. Like, I didn't know any of this. This is crazy.
Build winners. His name lives on every time a franchise uses bird rights to keep a star in town. Kevin Durant. His smooth scoring and creative footwork weren't just tough to guard. They made the NBA rewrite the rules. One move in particular, the rip-through, became Durant's signature tool to draw fouls. Standing 6'10" with a massive wingspan, Durant would face up from the wing, get into triple threat position, and if a defender reached in, he'd swing his arms through theirs and draw contact. The refs used to call that a shooting foul, sending Durant to the line every time. He led the league in free throw attempts in 2 straight seasons, with nearly 8 per game in 2010-11, but fans hated it. Coaches were furious. Even disciplined defenders couldn't avoid it. So, the NBA stepped in. Right before the 2011-12 season, the league reclassified rip-through fouls as non-shooting fouls. Unless Durant was clearly in a legit shooting motion, like fully raising the ball to release a jumper, it was just a common foul. That meant no more automatic trips to the line. Now the team would inbound the ball unless they were in the bonus. Refs got video training featuring Durant himself swinging his arms through defenders' hands to sell the foul. From that point on, those examples became textbook violations of what the league started calling a non-basketball move. Durant adjusted. His scoring stayed elite, but his free throw attempts dropped. The league-wide attempts dropped too. The rule set a precedent that later influenced the unnatural motion crackdown in 2021. Durant's rip-through didn't break any rules, but it exposed a hole in how fouls were called. And when he kept going back to the line again and again, the league realized it had to change how the game was officiated. That's how powerful Durant's influence became, strong enough to shift how the NBA defines a scoring
I didn't know Kevin Durant had that much of an influence on the NBA.
attempt. Reggie Miller.
That's crazy,
His leg kick
Chad.
wasn't just
That's
a quirk.
crazy.
It changed NBA officiating forever. Known for his cold-blooded shooting and clutch threes, with the Indiana Pacers, Miller used every inch of his body to gain an edge. One of his most controversial tactics was extending his leg during a jump shot to draw contact from defenders. It often led to shooting fouls and occasionally 4-point plays. The move was legal at the time, but it frustrated defenders and coaches alike. The defender would jump straight up to contest, and suddenly, Reggie's leg would be in their space. The NBA had seen enough. By the 2012 season, they introduced the Reggie Miller rule to stop shooters from initiating contact by unnaturally kicking out their legs. Under this rule, if an offensive player kicks their leg to create contact, it's an offensive foul, not a trip to the free throw line. Referees were trained to look for the unnatural leg extension and determine whether the contact was created by the shooter. This wasn't just about Miller. Players like D-Wade and Manu were using similar tactics, drawing fouls on legitimate contests. The league wanted to encourage fair defense and eliminate cheap fouls that slowed the game and rewarded flopping. They even expanded post-game review policies to identify exaggerated contact and penalize it. Rasheed Wallace didn't just play basketball, he argued with it. His battles weren't just with opponents, but with referees, night after night, and the numbers don't even try to lie about it. Wallace racked up the most technical fouls in league history at the time he retired, including a wild 41 in a single season. That kind of noise didn't just get fans talking, it got the league's attention too. Back in the early 2000s, Wallace was lighting up the scoreboard and the referees at the same time, dropping 14 points and grabbing 6 rebounds per game, while also getting tossed from 7 games in one season. The league finally had enough. Before the 2005 season, there really wasn't a consistent punishment for players stacking technicals. You get fined, sure, but Wallace proved that fines weren't stopping anybody, so the NBA dropped the hammer. Starting in 2005, the rules changed. If a player hit 16 technical fouls in the regular season, they got a 1-game suspension. Then for every 2 more after that, another suspension followed. Playoffs, that number dropped to 7, with the same 2-foul pattern afterward. Fines stacked too, starting at $2,000 and climbing. The shift was major. Wallace had 17 technicals that year and sat out 1 game because of it. Compared to his earlier seasons, that was practically tame. League-wide, technicals dropped too. Wallace's name came up constantly during the rollout of the rule. He was mentioned in training sessions, in league memos, even in press conferences. Referees and league officials admitted his antics forced the change. It wasn't just him though. The rule worked. It's still used today. And yes, Wallace still yelled, but he knew the consequences were real now. His legacy, besides the points and rebounds, he became the poster guy for when too much talk finally led to a rulebook rewrite. Trent Tucker. This guy managed to trigger a rule change.
That is crazy. He talked that much. They had to make that rule. What?
With just 1/10 of a second on the clock. On January 15, 1990, the Knicks were down by 1 to the Bulls with almost no time left. Tucker caught an inbounds pass and hit a 3 to win it. But here's the problem. There were only 0.1 seconds showing on the clock when the play started. The Bulls were livid. Michael Jordan and Coach Phil Jackson said there's no way a human could catch and shoot that fast. And honestly, they had a point. Back then, the rules didn't say how much time was actually needed for a catch and shoot.
What?
The refs let the shot stand, but the controversy exploded. Media jumped on it. Radio shows argued over
Yeah, because that's literally cheating. Like, once the buzzer goes off and you make the shot, that doesn't matter. You still lost.
it. The league started investigating, and it turned out the Bulls' frustration had science on their side. Experts looked at the mechanics and concluded a catch and shoot play needs at least 0.3 seconds. Anything less, you're only getting off a tip or a tap, not a full catch and fire. So in the 1990 to 91 season, the league made it official. The NBA dropped the Trent Tucker rule into the book. If there's 0.2 seconds or less on the clock, only a tip in or a tap counts. To catch and shoot, you need at least 0.3 seconds. The rule applies at the end of every quarter and overtime. Even though replay tech didn't come along until later, this rule gave refs a clear cutoff. Tucker's moment got immortalized not for
Wait a minute, you guys didn't have replay back then? Wait a minute, so a foul, if you didn't see it, you didn't see it. That is actually insane. You guys didn't have replay back then. What? That's all I know. So me hearing that, that's crazy, chat.
the shot itself, but for changing how late game situations are handled forever. It didn't derail his career. He still averaged over 8 points the next year, but his name's now forever tied to buzzer beaters. And ever since, coaches have had to plan their end of game plays with this rule in mind. It's still used, still enforced, and still saving fans from watching impossible shots turn into bad win. D-Wade, he turned drawing fouls into a science experiment, and defenders were his test subject. Wade's pump fake became the stuff of nightmares. He'd flash it, wait for a defender to bite, then launch himself into their space, like he was diving into a swimming pool full of free throws. The refs blew the whistle, Wade went to the line, and fans of the other team screamed into the void, but it worked. He led the league in free throws multiple times, including nearly 11 a game in 2006 to 2007. Wade's move was simple but lethal. Fake the shot, watch the defender jump, then jump into them like he was finishing a trust fall. He'd sell the contact with just enough head snap or shoulder lean to make it look like he got rocked. It drove coaches crazy. Stan Van Gundy once said, trying to guard him without fouling felt impossible. And while it made for smart offense, it also slowed the game down and turned every contested shot into a ref show. Fast forward to 2021, and the NBA finally hit the brakes on this stuff. Starting in the 2021 to 2022 season, the league rolled out new guidelines. No more rewarding unnatural moves.
I feel like Dwyane Wade was doing this, but I feel like James Harden was doing it on a crazier level. Let me know down below if I'm mistaken, though.
If a player jumps sideways or into a defender after a pump fake just to get contact, no shooting foul, just keep playing. The refs were told to focus on real scoring moves, not clever tricks. Wade had already retired, but his blueprint was one of the reasons this rule showed up. Referee training even used his old footage to show what not to call. It affected the new wave of foul hunters, with free throws dropping across the league. Harden, Young, even Luka saw fewer trips to the line. The rule's still around, keeping games faster and cleaner. Wade's career might have looked different under it, but his legacy still lives in every pump fake that no longer draws a whistle. LaMarcus Aldridge. One blown call turned him into a rules pioneer. Back in February 2012, Portland was clinging.
One blown call. There's no way it was that important. Hold on.
To a lead against Oklahoma City when Kevin Durant went up for a shot. Aldridge made what looked like a clean block, but the ref called goaltending. The game was tied, went to overtime, and Portland lost. Later, the league admitted the call was wrong. Aldridge got the block before the ball hit the backboard, but that didn't matter in the moment. The call stood, and the game flipped. The fallout was brutal. That loss kicked off a collapse. Portland went from 14-10 to a downward spiral that cost them the season, their coach, and their core roster. Fans were furious, and the media pounced on it. But the worst part, referees couldn't review goaltending calls. No matter how bad the miss was, no replay could fix it. The league knew that had to change. So, in the 2012-13 season, the NBA rolled out what fans started calling the LaMarcus Aldridge rule. Now, in the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, or in overtime, referees can use instant replay to check if a goaltending or basket interference call was right.
They can't use instant replay throughout the whole game. They can only use it during the end? What? Let me know down below if that's right. Like, am I reading that wrong? Is that what?
The ball hit the backboard first? Was it still on the way up? Did the defender touch it clean? These are now reviewable questions. If the replay shows the call was wrong, it's overturned. If it's correct, it stands. This rule's been used in key moments since. And while goaltending reviews are rare, they matter. The point was never to challenge every call, just the ones that decide games. Aldridge kept doing his thing, averaging over 20 points that next season, but his block lives on in the rulebook. Every time a goaltending call gets reviewed at the end of a game, it traces back to that one night in Portland. And now, refs can finally get it right when it matters most. Derrick Rose. At 22, he didn't just win MVP, he blew the lid off the rookie contract system. Rose put up 25 points and nearly 8 assists a game in the 2010-11 season, leading the Bulls to 62 wins.
Do you guys think that Derrick Rose could have been something really special? You think he could have won an NBA championship and everything? Because, he got a crazy injury that, changed his whole career from forever, actually. A lot of players are getting, like, the same type of injury he has, now. But, like, technology is way different. They're coming back healthier and even better. So, let me know what you guys think, because, Derrick Rose has a crazy story, chat.
In the Eastern Conference Finals, he became the youngest MVP ever. But here's the kicker. He did all that while making just $5.5 million. That number was pocket change for a player doing what Rose was doing. Under the old rules, even if a young star dominated like Rose, teams could only offer an extension starting at 25% of the salary cap. For someone like Rose, that wasn't cutting it. Chris Paul, president of the Players Association at the time, saw how unfair it was. He pushed for a fix during the 2011 lockout, arguing that guys like Rose deserved more. The result? The Derrick Rose rule. Starting in the 2011-12 season, if a player finished their rookie deal and had been...
Chris Paul is a W guy. He's actually looking out for his fellow point guard Derrick Rose.
Named MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, or made an All-NBA team recently, they could get a contract starting at 30% of the salary cap. That's 5 extra percent, or about $8 to $10 million more per year, depending on the cap, but only the best of the best could qualify. Rose was the first to cash in. He signed a 5-year deal worth $94.8 million. He earned it. Even though injuries later slowed him down, his impact on contract structure stuck. The rules helped others, like Paul George, Luka, and Tyrese Halliburton, pull in big extensions early. The league kept the rule in place through 2 more CBAs. Teams can now build around young stars without fearing early exit. The criteria are strict but fair. And every time a rising player earns that 30% deal, it traces back to Rose's MVP season and Chris Paul's vision. They didn't just change the game, they rewrote how stars get paid. Derek Harper. His defense was like being caught in airport security. You weren't getting anywhere without someone's hands on you. Harper was a master of hand checking, especially during his time with the Knicks in the early 90s. He made a career out of steering offensive players like he was driving a bumper car. If someone like Michael Jordan was trying to break free, Harper was glued to his hip. Legally, at the time, it worked. The Knicks ranked second in defense in 1994, allowing just...
What? I would not want to play basketball against him if this is just strictly what he does. Gosh, that's not even basketball, man. It was at the time, but it's just lame.
92 points per game, but fans weren't exactly thrilled watching 95 to 93 slugfests. The league took notice. Harper's style and the physicality of teams like the Knicks and Pistons were seen as part of the problem. Scoring was down, games dragged, and referees couldn't do much with the rules in place. In the 1994 referee training video, Harper's hand checks were used as textbook examples, just not the good kind. So the NBA stepped in. Starting in the 1994 to 95 season, hand checking got its first real restriction. Defenders couldn't use their hands in the backcourt or above the free throw line. If you used a forearm, it had to be subtle. No more riding opponents like a shopping cart. But that didn't kill it completely. Harper kept using quick footwork and anticipation to stay effective, putting up over 11 points and 5 assists per game in that first season of Chain. The crackdown evolved. By 2004, hand checking was gone. All contact that messed with speed or rhythm, that was a foul. The league wasn't messing around anymore. Scoring jumped. Slashers...
I love that. You can actually get way more done and have way more fun on the court if it's like that out also.
Like D. Wade and Steve Nash lit up defenses and guards took over the game. Harper's influence stuck around though. Every rule that came after was shaped by how annoying he made life for ball handlers. So even...
Chat, we gotta talk about this. Especially that last rule. Like, if you really want to be a dribbler and you really want to slash on the court and go crazy, this guy would have just bothered you because of the way He was, but the rule, that was enforced actually changed the whole game of basketball in general, I'll be honest. But, this is the end of the video, chat. I appreciate you guys for recommending me this video. This was actually an amazing video. I learned so much that I never knew about basketball, I'll be honest. Like the Shaq rule, that was crazy. But, with that being said, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, man. And I'll catch y'all next time. Yes, sir.